CBS Sports.
High drive, center field, hit the wall, grand slam. This is magnificent.
Got a fantasy question? Email fantasybaseball@cbsi.com. Get ready to win your league.
Where fantasy becomes reality.
Now here's Frank, Scott, Chris, and Adam.
Happy Monday, everybody, unless, of course, you're me. And welcome into Fantasy Baseball today. On May 24th, Frank Sanford joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. And I'm not trying to start today's podcast on a bad foot. You know, I don't want to be negative, but the New York Knicks lost game one of the playoffs. So, I mean, that was pretty terrible for the weekend in general. I had crappy chicken wings on Sunday for dinner. It was overall, it was not a great Sunday. So I'm looking forward to this podcast to help me get back on track. How was your weekend, Scott?
It's fine. I didn't have any crappy chicken wings. I didn't have any chicken wings at all. I feel like there's not that big of a differentiation. There's not that much differentiation between good chicken wings and bad chicken wings. It's kind of like pizza in that way. I don't know.
I ordered them from a Thai place. I don't know what I was doing, man. I was just in the mood for wings. Fiance wanted Thai food. I don't know. What's up, Chris? How you doing? Are you a big wings guy?
I have to sneeze. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay,
well,
it's passed. I got past it. Wings are probably my favorite food.
Wow.
I love them.
You and Jessica Kleinschmidt.
I would eat wings. I don't know if they're my favorite because like burgers are awesome and like stone crabs are amazing.
It's your favorite in the moment it's in front of you.
Yeah, like I love a chicken wing. Love a good crispy chicken wing.
100%.
Love a boneless chicken wing, which is I don't care that it's nuggets. Who cares?
It's a chicken nugget with sauce on it.
Who cares? Like a chicken tender is not a tenderloin. Yeah, it is. I don't know where I'm going with this. There was a point I was going to make, and I can't find it now. But don't worry about it. Chicken fingers aren't chicken fingers. That's what I was going to say.
All right, well, you guys helped me get back on track here from the weekend because I need it. Lots to talk about, some struggling starting pitchers to go over. We're going to get into one of them right now. Obviously, lots of news and notes. We had a trade on Friday. Let's get right into it.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
All right, Chris. We were talking beforehand, and you finally made a big old move. What was that move? Who's your oh, my goodness gracious player from the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's Louise Castillo, unfortunately. I wrote about this. You'll be able to find it on the site. Just kind of walking through my thought process on why I didn't want to move him down, where he is, why I did move him down, where I moved him down. And that was to number 46 at starting pitcher. Basically, here's my thought process in brief. He had it really wasn't his worst start of the season, or even his worst start of his last week. But Louise Castillo gave her last 10 days, I guess. Gave up 5 runs in 5 innings today. I think 4 strikeouts, 3 walks, if I'm remembering correctly. Basically, my thought process was, Louise Castillo is too talented to continue struggling this much. And I see that. I have him 46th. He is much lower than that in the actual rankings. I think he will be better moving forward than he has been so far. But I basically gave him, it's the kind of thing that could just turn on like that. I snapped my fingers in case you couldn't hear it. And I thought Tuesday might have been that opportunity. And instead, it sounded like what my left finger sounds like when I try to snap it, which is nothing. He came back on Sunday, struggled again. So clearly the light hadn't flipped on. I was willing to give him that opportunity to show when he finally had a good start, could he follow it up? Clearly he couldn't. Clearly, whatever the issues are that are there are still there. And I think there are, some issues that I've been able to see in doing some of the deeper research. His release point has been less consistent than in years past. The average is still pretty much where it's been in the past. His changeup movement has changed a little bit. It has more vertical drop than it has in recent years. He's throwing it out of the strike zone more often. And the command of the rest of his pitches has just been dreadful. There's a good Fangraphs piece from a couple of days ago about Louise Castillo, and it shows that, basically his changeup, mostly throwing it in the chase zone of the strike zone, and everything else is right down the middle, on average. That means that it's easier to lay off the changeup because it's further separated from the other pitches in terms of where it's ending up and how it's moving. And the other pitches are being thrown in a place that is just really, really easy to hit. And so as long as you can avoid the changeup and avoid swinging through it, you're going to have pretty good results against Louise Castillo right now. I still believe that he can turn it around and be one of the 15 best starting pitchers in baseball. I still believe that physically, there doesn't really seem to be anything wrong with him. But for whatever reason, he has not been able to figure it out. And the fact that, that one good start doesn't appear to have at least been the start of something is what finally inspired me to move him down. Maybe that's irrational, but that's my justification.
Yeah, and that's a massive drop because you had him inside your top 20 before then. And obviously, we were coming on here and you were defending him and you had your reasons for doing so, but finally making the move, dropping him down the ranks, you dropped him just behind Zach Plesac and Aaron Savale, who are obviously,
don't have nearly as much upside as him. But I feel more confident in them right now. Where I stopped, I couldn't move him above Robbie Ray. I just as good as Ray's been, he's given up 11 home runs in his last 6 starts while only allowing 1 walk. And that's because he's basically just throwing his pitches in the middle of the strike zone and relying on his good stuff to get him by. And I think this might be a better approach than what he's had so far. I think he'll be better than the 3.87 ERA he has over that last 6 starts. But I can't look at the guy that everybody wrote off coming into the season after he had I would say a worse run than what Louise Castillo has had so far, because Castillo's peripherals aren't quite as bad. I can't move him below Robbie Ray. I'm sorry. I thought about Robbie Ray. I could not bring myself to that.
We're getting close.
I thought about having Robbie Ray as my, oh my goodness gracious, player of the weekend because of that 1 walk and 6 starts and 19 whiffs he also had on Saturday, going 7 innings. I'm actually feeling better about Louise Castillo overall than I was last week, let's say. Not after last start. I mean, last start. It's he's fixed. Not quite. But velocity was still up. The whiffs were still up. He got whiffs on both the slider and the changeup. It was pretty much evenly distributed fastball, slider, changeup.
And he had some bad luck today. He got BABIP'd a little bit.
Sure. I mean, walks have been an issue in both, but were an issue in both of the starts this week. So obviously he needs to get that. He needs to work on that still. I think today's start verifies it's not time to activate him yet. You don't want to get him back in your lineup yet. It's fine. I still I still feel better about Louise Castillo than I did at this point last week. I think he's at least headed the right direction. Yeah. So I moved him up to 25th after his last start. I'm going to move him down from there, obviously, but I think I'll actually have him higher than you do.
There you go. Yeah, I'm not dropping him. I'm not starting him. I would trade for him if somebody. I've put out a bunch of buy low offers on Louise Castillo so far. Nobody's bit, but maybe after this one that'll happen. I can't tell you, the listener, what to do. Frank and Scott obviously can't tell you what to do either. But if someone asks me, what should I do with Louise Castillo? I don't know. Here's what I'm doing, but it depends on your level of trust and faith in him. And I can't tell you should have the same level of trust that I do in him.
100%. Scott, your oh my goodness gracious player from the weekend?
All right. So this is a little atypical. All right. But my oh my goodness gracious player of this weekend is a player by the name of Taylor Walls.
Who?
Now, if you haven't heard of Taylor Walls,
he's got a 1,000 OPS.
If you haven't heard of Taylor Walls, at least as of Friday afternoon, you weren't alone. I had not heard of Taylor Walls. Apparently, he was a top 10 prospect in the Reyes system by most rank lists, but not one that really had generated any kind of buzz. Stood out mostly for his defense. He showed good on-base skills in the minors, but Taylor Walls, not really on the fantasy radar. So when the Rays traded their starting shortstop, Willy Adames, to the Brewers Friday afternoon, the thinking was, okay, here they are making room for Wander Franco, or at least Vidal Brujan, right? At least Brujan, if not Franco. Only for them to then call up Taylor Walls, who's older than both. Okay, you can kind of get it if they envision Walls being a starter for them. He's having a good season to AAA himself. It kind of makes sense, but it certainly feels like a stall tactic. I don't know if they're waiting another month to hopefully get to that Super 2 cutoff for
although that's
for Franco.
Usually around now, if not, maybe a week or two from now.
Well, usually they wait till late June just to be safe, because it's one of those things you don't really know. You don't really know what the exact date is until years from now.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's a specific date. But anyway, I don't really think that's it anyway. I think honestly, he's 20 years old. He lost a year of development. He was at high Class A before this year, and they're just not ready to call him up yet. I think
this is Wander Franco you're talking about.
The Rays are, I think, notoriously conservative when it comes to calling players up. Whether you want to, say that's an organizational philosophy from a baseball perspective, or, coincidentally it happens to help them financially, whatever it is, they seem less apt to call guys up than just about any other team. It seems like they're like 6 months behind where most teams are when it comes to calling guys up.
I agree with you on that, Chris, but I did think that Wander Franco's placement at AAA was an aggressive placement. So I will just say that. Go ahead.
I don't think it's going to take a full month is what I'm saying for them to call up Franco. And I don't really think it affects Brujan's timeline at all, because I'm expecting he'll be called up to play mostly outfield. So he can't play shortstop. It wouldn't have been surprising to see him get called up with this move, but obviously it didn't happen. But it's disappointing. I mean, Walls, look, I put in a bid on him in both of my 15-team roto leagues and my AL only league, but I don't think he's going to be 12-team material. I don't think he has enough offensive potential. So, and I don't think he improves their chances. I mean, it was definitely a financial move trading away Adames. They got some bullpen help for him. But he was already a defensive standout at shortstop. So I don't see how Walls makes them better. Yeah. And I think they have to recognize that. He's not going to be the difference in them winning the AL East.
You might as well, because you've got arguably 3 guys in the organizational hierarchy who are ahead of him between Brujan, Franco, and Xavier Edwards. I think Edwards is maybe a little iffier. It might just be here, let's give him a month and see if he can hit the ground running. If not, he's a utility guy.
Yep. And Taylor Walls, 24 years old, former 3rd-round pick by the Rays back in 2017. He only has shortstop eligibility on CBS right now, and he was playing well in the minors. 327 batting average, 2 homers, 2 steals. Back in 2019, he hit 270 with 10 homers and 28 steals. So he can run a little bit. So in those deeper category leagues, Scott mentioned 15-team roto. I added him in a few 15-team roto leagues where I needed help at middle infield, and I picked up Taylor Walls there. I think that's where you could look, but anything shallower than that, probably not yet. But a name to watch. The Tampa Bay Rays are hot. 10-game winning streak. Their offense is actually showing up.
Yeah, to illustrate that 1 point one more time, remember, Randy Arozarena only played 23 games last season. He had played 153 games in his career at AAA before last season. He had 1,000 OPS in 2019 between AAA and AA. Most teams probably would have had him in the competition on opening day, if not in the lineup. The Rays didn't.
Yep, it's fair enough. Oh my goodness gracious, for me from the weekend, there's not really much that I can add about this guy, except that we probably just all need to move him up the rankings even more than we already have. But Jesse Winker, it's like every time I look at the Reds box score, the guy is just smashing baseballs. He had a triple dong on Friday. He had 5 home runs over the weekend total. And the StatCast page is just filled with red. A 311 expected batting average, 576 expected slug. He has a higher launch angle than he has in the past. Ground balls were an issue for Jesse Winker a couple of years back. Entering Sunday, he was the 4th highest scoring outfielder in points leagues. Jesse Winker's awesome. He's always kind of been awesome. He just needs to stay healthy. So I have him at outfielder 20. I don't know how much higher I can move him, but the guy is just amazing. So I felt like we should give him some run.
You know what stood out to me is you look at his April slash line, 370, 414, 679. his May slash line before even this 2-hit performance with an extra home run, it was 333, 410, 667. It was about the same. Like, I don't know how you repeat that slash line from one month to the next. But yeah, Jesse Winker looks like he's finally broken out. I wish he had done it 3 years ago when he was my favorite player in the world, but that's fine. That's fine. I'm happy for him.
You know, it's a little bit of a small sample size. You know, like even going back to last season, you're talking about only about 350 plate appearances where he has 1,000 OPS. He's hitting 291 with an 892 OPS for his career. And you're talking about 341 games, 1,200 plate appearances. I mean, you just cut that in half, you're looking at 85. Am I doing the math right? 85 runs, 27 homers, 75 RBI, 291 average.
Look, Jeremy Frank on Twitter, who's at MLB Random Stats on Twitter, he tweeted out, this was a couple days ago, so a couple home runs ago, that Jesse Winker's hit it. He's slashing in his last 162 games, 304, 401, 552.
Yeah, I feel like it was never in doubt. Like, he's always been a good hitter in his career. He just has never played more than 113 games in a season. Well, last year he played 54 of 60, so you give him some credit for that, but completely cratered in the second month of the season last year, and then just, hit the ground running this season so far. He's been amazing. So all the credit to Jesse Winker.
I do think we need to give a little shout out to the guy who nearly matched Jesse Winker this past week.
Let's do it.
And that's Austin Reilly, who
for sure
had his second 2-homer game in 4, I think it was. He scored 49.5 points in points leagues this week. And he happened to be the number 1 sleeper hitter for this week. I'll just point that out. But yeah, he had been just showing much better, good plate discipline, making a lot of contact. And we kept saying if he can add that power back in, then he could really be onto something. And that appears to have happened, because now Austin Reilly's slash line for this season, I mean, the guy's not even 80% rostered yet. He started virtually every game this year, and his slash line's 320, 414, 549. So, I mean, obviously that's improved a lot just over the past couple weeks, but needless to say, should be rostered everywhere. Now, it is interesting. It's worth pointing out that as these home runs have taken off, the strikeout rate has gone back up. So, maybe there's some amount of trade-off there. I don't know.
I will say what I find most interesting is his batted ball numbers don't necessarily look much better so far this season in terms of average exit velocity in particular, but also hard hit rate is, a little better, but right in line with his rookie season. It's not. And when you account for the league-wide changes, it's probably a little lower relative. This is an example of a player who has discovered seemingly more consistency. And so his launch angle is actually the lowest of his career. It's 10.5 degrees. Last year it was 13.6. It was 20.6 the year before. But he has, Statcast has these subcategories, and a few of them are topped percentage and under percentage, and both of those are career lows, or lower than they were last year. At least topped was lower in 2019, but under was way higher. That means he's just making solid contact a lot more often. He's got a 9.8% solid contact rate and a 10.8% barrel rate. Last year those were 15% combined. So he's not popping off the page in a way, he's not like what Byron Buxton was doing earlier in the season, where it was just oh my God, he looks amazing. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of small changes overall that seem to have made Austin Reilly a better and more complete hitter.
Yep. Austin Reilly, that roster rate needs to be 100%. He's 77% rostered. So even in those shallower 10-team leagues, he's red hot right now. Braves offense looks like it's coming alive. Definitely helps when you face the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm not going to take anything away from them, but they're coming around. So get Austin Reilly on your team. Before we get to the news and notes, we've got to let you know what is on CBS Sports HQ this week. As always, CBS Sports HQ is the network to start your sports news day at 8 a.m. Eastern with Morning Buzz, an hour of highlights and all the news you need to know. And come back or leave us on all day at 6 p.m., where we break down all the night's action and release dozens of picks from the best analysts and cappers in the sports world. But this week is all about the action across the pond. HQ has 2 hours of lead-in programming ahead of both the Europa League final on Wednesday and the Champions League final on Saturday. And after the matches conclude, don't leave the app, as HQ will have extended coverage for both matches, breaking it all down with the best soccer minds out there. Go to your Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, really most connected TVs, and look for the CBS Sports app. Fire it up and check out CBS Sports HQ. And heck, tell us what you think about it on Twitter. That's how confident I am that you will love the way we break down the beautiful game and all your favorite sports. Some news and notes from the weekend. Jacob deGrom has been cleared to return and start Tuesday against the Rockies in Citi Field, which is a great matchup to come back to. So, yay. Kenta Maeda was placed on the 10-day IL with a right adductor strain. He had been battling groin tightness. He also made a start. He allowed 3 runs over 5 innings pitched. It was a pretty mad performance, which has kind of been Kenta Maeda all season long. The Mets placed Pete Alonso on the IL with a right hand sprain. JT Realmuto was placed on the IL with a left wrist bone bruise, retroactive to May 18th. We had a trade on Friday, which we've already kind of alluded to, as Trevor Richards and Willie Adames were traded to the Brewers for pitchers JP Fireisen and Drew Rasmussen. Fireisen actually picked up a save on Sunday as Diego Castillo. What are you laughing at, Chris?
The Rays are the best. You love them.
Well, Diego Castillo was used 3 of the last 4 days, and he did pick up a save over the weekend. So it seemed like they were getting back into Diego Castillo as their closer. Any interest in Fireisen in deeper category leagues for saves?
I did pick him up in one of my 15-teamers where, like, anybody who is, showing an inkling of maybe being used in that role gets picked up. So I think it's probably Castillo's, but the Rays being the Rays, you never know.
Yep. Willie Adames becomes available in NL only leagues. So if you need a shortstop or middle infielder there, he's someone to look at. And we already mentioned Taylor Walls, who, if you need some speed, you should be looking at him in category leagues. The Phillies placed Matt Moore on the IL and recalled one of their top pitching prospects. Actually, their top pitching prospect for sure. Spencer Howard, who started on Saturday. He allowed 1 run over only 3 innings, 4 walks against the Red Sox. He is 22% rostered and tentatively lined up to face the Marlins on Thursday this week in Miami, which is a pretty good start. Interest level in Spencer Howard?
Not 0.
Yeah, not 0. Obviously we've seen him pitch a little in the majors so far, and it hasn't been mind-blowing, but
yeah, I want to see what the stuff looked like. That's what I'm looking for. Right
yeah,
now,
so
fastball velocity was a little down.
Right, he averaged closer to 94 on the fastball, like he did during his stint starting last year, which sounds pretty good. But they were saying his velocity was actually down in 2020 when he was averaging 94. He had been averaging 96 in previous appearances this year, mostly out of the bullpen. Yeah, maybe it gets back up to 96. I don't know. He did have 12 whiffs on 68 pitches, which is good.
Very fastball heavy. It's a little alarming to walk 4 in 3 innings with 72% fastball rate, which, we haven't seen it so far from him.
But he is a top prospect who's getting a shot in the rotation. So not picking him up everywhere yet, but in some deeper leagues, and certainly monitoring his performance.
Fran Reyes was placed on the IL with an internal oblique strain. His initial diagnosis is that he will miss 5 to 7 weeks. Prospect Owen Miller was recalled by Cleveland and came over in the Mike Clevenger trade last year. Miller was batting .406 with 2 home runs and a .1067 OPS at AAA this season. Any interest in Owen Miller?
No, not really.
I don't know. He played 18 games. He played 75 games in 2018. He played 130 in 2019. He had 13 homers and 5 steals. I don't know. It's pretty hard to get excited about what he's done so far in his professional career. So I don't think so.
He's not terribly exciting, but in deeper leagues, remember the name Owen Miller. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, probably not that much less exciting than Taylor Walls, for being honest.
All right.
Walls has at least been a very enthusiastic, if not altogether successful base stealer.
True. Kendall Gray was placed on the IL with no injury designation, so it's likely a COVID situation. The Mariners also placed 4 other relief pitchers on the COVID IL on Friday. Dave Roberts said on Saturday that Cody Bellinger could return in 7 to 8 days. So not this week, but could potentially be back by next Monday. The Blue Jays placed Kevin Bizio on the IL with a cervical spine ligament sprain, which actually sounds way worse than it is. He basically has a sore neck right now. They're optimistic he'll only be out the minimum 10 days. Victor Robles was placed on the IL with a right ankle sprain retroactive to May 20th. Andrew Stevenson is set for more playing time, and he also has speed for those in deeper category leagues.
I do want to point out with Robles, I wouldn't necessarily drop him. I know he's been bad this season, but
he was kind of playing better recently.
Well, he was running more is the big thing. He had gotten moved back to the 9th spot, and basically when he's hit either 1st or 9th this season, he's run at a 42 steal attempt pace. When he's batted 8th, he's basically not run at all. And that's actually something to keep in mind with a lot of players. Stolen bases happen less often from the number 8 spot, and the number 8 spot has a bigger impact on steal attempt rate than any other lineup spot. So in the National League in specific, not in the American League.
The Reds placed both Nick Senzel and Wade Miley on the IL this weekend. Brendan Rodgers was activated on Friday. He picked up 2 hits with 2 RBI in 2 games this weekend. He is 31% rostered if you need a middle infielder.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting too. I'd go for him before Walls for sure. Like if you picked up Jorge Polanco, now it sounds like he's having trouble with that surgically repaired ankle. He had trouble with it last year too. He keeps having surgery and it's not getting better. So I'd drop Polanco for Rodgers, and I'm sure there's like a 50 percentage points of rostership disparity there. But that's a combination of both how excited I am about Rodgers and how concerned I am about Polanco.
Yeah, Brendan Rodgers in my 15-team NFBC main event league, he went for $118 out of a $1,000 fab budget. And you know what the runner-up bid was? $118 by who? This guy. Apparently, I lost the tiebreaker. And what are the chances of a league where you have $1,000 fab budget, you bid the same amount, 118, and you lose? That's what happened to me. So I am, just keep piling on. Great Sunday, Frank. Anyway, the next name. The Red Sox.
You don't have to root for the Knicks.
I can't talk about it, Chris. It's I'm too emotional about it. The Red Sox purchased the contract of Danny Santana on Friday, and he started all 3 games this weekend. He hit 2 home runs and 1 steal. He's 10% rostered with only first base eligibility on CBS. He started 2 games in the outfield already, so he's getting closer to having that eligibility. This guy had 28 homers and 21 steals back in 2019 with the Rangers. So we've given you a bunch of names already for category leagues on this podcast, but Santana is another one. He went for $137 in this 15-team category league.
Yeah, I added him. I think in every single Roto league I'm in, I added him. I spent about 4% of my budget in those 15-teamers.
Wow.
I spent 2% of my budget in a 12-teamer. I mean,
makes sense.
The playing time appears to be there. The playing time appears to be there. So that's one hurdle cleared. We were all skeptical of his performance in 2019, and then he was awful in 2020. But it turns out he had a pretty bad elbow issue, and he was killing it at AAA before getting called up. So I'm in those Roto leagues. I think it's worth taking a shot. Not guaranteeing anything, obviously, but it's an interesting profile if he comes through on it.
And he did have pretty impressive batted ball numbers in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually has always hit the ball pretty hard. It's just,
Yeah.
He'd had issues with contact before that.
2021, the year that we're excited about Rich Hill and Danny Santana. Who would have thunk it? The Yankees announced Friday that Aaron Hicks needs surgery to repair his injured left wrist. It is potentially season ending. The Padres are banged up. Trent Grisham is dealing with a heel bruise and some lower half stuff, according to their manager. Manny Machado is day-to-day with right shoulder tightness. Nelson Cruz has been out of the Twins lineup for 4 straight games now with a bruised wrist. Both Cabrian Hayes and Hunter Dozier started rehab assignments for their respective teams on Saturday. Michael Pineda will be activated off the IL on Wednesday to start against the Baltimore Orioles. Miles Michaelis left his season debut due to right forearm tightness. That Sounds very bad. Jose Urquidy could make a rehab start at AA on Wednesday. A Keston Hiura update. He is batting .438, 14 for 32 with 3 home runs, but still has 13 strikeouts in 9 games. So don't like the swing and miss, but he's doing well when he makes contact. So at least that's something. He's 44% rostered if you want to stash him in any deeper leagues. Some prospect updates from the weekend as well. Red Sox outfield prospect Jaron Duran went 5 for 5 on Saturday. He is batting .299 with 7 home runs and 4 steals, but also doing so with a near 17% swinging strike rate. So I have a feeling.
And then there's bigger news for Duran.
I saw someone mention this. I think we're probably going the same place.
Yeah, he's playing for the Olympic qualifier team, so he's going to be out for the next 2 weeks, I think.
And you can't play in the Olympics if you're on a 40-man roster. So it'll kind of, I guess, come down to whether he prefers playing in the Olympics or, trying to get called up if it comes to that.
Yeah, I saw one, I don't remember who it was, one Red Sox writer tweeting he still thinks he'll be up in June despite this. So I'm guessing, playing for the qualifier team doesn't mean you're playing in the Olympics, I guess. But I don't know. It really throws a wrench in the timetable here for Duran.
Mm-hmm. Vidal Brujan, we already mentioned the name today, but he continues to get it done. He added another home run on Saturday. He's now batting .333 with 7 home runs and 7 steals at AAA. He's 34% rostered. So if you want to stash him in deeper category leagues, again, Vidal Brujan, the name there. Royals pitching prospect Jackson Coward had a 10 strikeout game, and maybe he's the next one that we see. They've been pretty aggressive with calling up their prospects so far this year. And just a name to remember if you play in a dynasty league, a deeper dynasty league, and he's available, you should add him. Twins second-round pick in 2019. Matt Cantorino had a 10 strikeout game in high A. He's 23 years old, but he could be a fast riser. 23, high A. I know that I've seen him rising up some other prospect lists as well. So the name
Cantorino,
the
Cantor man making moves. Thanks, too young for that one.
Yeah, I have no idea. We're going to take a quick break.
That might be too young for that one.
When we return, we are going to look at the waiver wire hitters, the most added from this weekend. We'll do it next. Fantasy Baseball Today. So the most added, I was about to say starting pitchers, not starting pitchers, most added hitters from this weekend. Brandon Crawford, Robbie Grossman, Josh Fuentes, Austin Reilly, and Ian Happ. We'll take a look at those 5 first. Josh Fuentes, are people just reacting to him having an awesome week last week in Coors Field and there's not really much to see there? Is that what's happening with Josh Fuentes?
He has, I'm trying to pull up the full numbers. I saw it earlier today. I think he's overperforming his expected slugging percentage by like 200 points.
Oh my.
He has a 300 WOBA, which is bad, and he is outperforming it by 75 points. So has not been, I don't see much reason to be excited about Josh Fuentes. With the only reason would be he has a pulse and he's on the Rockies roster, and sometimes they play at Coors Field, but even that's not enough for me.
Robbie Grossman, I feel like we've talked about him a lot recently. He's 67% rostered, but has a power speed combination. He's useful in points leagues too. He walks quite a bit. Ian Happ, we gave you on Friday as one of Scott's favorite sleepers. He had 3 hits on Friday as well for the Chicago Cubs. 5 other most added hitters so far this weekend: Mike Zunino, William Contreras, Gavin Lux, who I know is playing very well. He had a big game on Sunday. Miguel Sano, he had a home run over the week. A very interesting feat that he accomplished. He had a home run with a golden sombrero, a home run with 4 strikeouts in the same game. It's not the easiest thing.
That's called a Sano.
A Sano, yeah, that makes sense. Gavin Lux, 5 hits over the weekend, including a grand slam on Sunday. The other name, Kyle Schwarber, one of the most added hitters. He's hot in May, so if you need power. Yeah. Gavin Lux, I feel like, Scott, even in a points league, like there's kind of been some middle infield injuries, and he's really showed up in the month of May. So I'm interested in Gavin Lux.
Yeah, me too. He struck out 31.1% of the time in April, which was really the main reason that I soured on him. But it's almost cut in half in May, 17.3 entering Sunday. So I mean, I think he has I think he has 3 home runs for the month of May. So it's not like there's been a lot of power production there. But if you're striking out, if the strikeouts are that low and you're in the Dodgers lineup and you're playing every day and you're eligible at both middle and infield spots, there's probably a place for you. I think I value Brendan Rodgers on about the same level, honestly. So, you could give me either one of them and I'd be pretty happy.
I think I'd rather have Rodgers, but I think it's pretty close. I still think Lux has platoon issues. He hasn't proven to me that he doesn't yet. Is the biggest thing.
A few other hitters from that you could target in deeper leagues: Jock Peterson, Garrett Cooper, who has 9 hits over his last 5 games, including 3 home runs. Seth Brown, he's got some splits issues, but whenever he's playing against right-handed pitching, he's been mashing. Chad Pinder for Oakland, Odubel Herrera with the Phillies, which I gave out last week, but roster rate is still really low. He's playing every day for them right now. And Amed Rosario is another name there. So Jock Peterson, Garrett Cooper, Seth Brown, Chad Pinder, Odubel Herrera, Amed Rosario. Any favorites here?
I was kind of surprised to see how much Amed Rosario is playing. He's basically the full-time shortstop now, but not really doing a lot with it. He can steal bases in theory if he gets on base enough. He got 4 hits Sunday, so
Yeah, his ex-WOBA over the last 100 plate appearances is slightly above average, and he's still very fast. So, I'd like to see him run more.
Yeah.
No love for Garrett Cooper?
Yeah. I mean, he's been playing more regularly than I thought too. Not quite every day.
I think he's like. It's hard to in a 12-team 5 outfitter league. You might need him, or you might have a spot for him, but I'm not super excited about it. I'd rather have Jock Peterson.
Yep. Cooper has first base and outfield eligibility. Seth Brown has homered in 3 straight games that he has started for the Oakland A's. And I mentioned at the top, we were talking about wings or whatever. So I have a bunch of hitters here that are either red hot, medium, mild, uncooked. Those would be
garlic parm.
Yeah. What's your favorite?
Wings uncooked, Frank? Is that why they were bad?
I'm a hot wing, hot sauce, hot buffalo sauce, and garlic parmesan. That's my go-to combo.
I like that. So I was craving wings so badly this weekend. That's why I just pulled the trigger on Sunday, even though I messed up. Anyway, I was going to order them from someplace, and I had the half and half selected, Chris. That was that combo I had, hot and garlic parmesan. So let's get it done. Frank's Red Hot. 2 hitters that are scorching in the month of May. Ramon Laureano is batting .303 with 8 home runs. Teoscar Hernandez batting .354 with 4 home runs and 2 steals in the month of May. I don't know that there's anything actionable with this outside of the fact that these guys look great right now.
I would buy high on Teoscar Hernandez.
I agree with
that. I think he's done a lot to convince me. Laureano, what a weird season. He had 8 stolen bases in the first 9 games, I think.
He doesn't have a single steal since.
Yeah, doesn't have a single steal since. And I mentioned at the time that there was a lot of I think half of his stolen bases, there hadn't even been a throw on them. So it was a little weird. But he does have 10 home runs in 34 games since then. So I guess that's one way to make up for it.
Yeah. There's so many hitters that are hot in May. I think I might have to look into that in an article at some point, because it's just so many hitters who got off to slow starts just have ridiculous numbers in May.
Oh, yeah. So how about some medium hotness? Yoan Moncada, he's batting .303 with 7 doubles, 10 runs, 10 RBI, 0 homers in the month of May, but he's walking a ton. He's performing very well. He's hitting right in the middle of the White Sox lineup. Not that it's a great lineup anymore. They've lost so many pieces. Eduardo Escobar, who we kind of wrote off a few weeks ago, but now has 13 hits with 5 home runs over his last 9 games. So anything you guys would like to add over on Yoan Moncada and Eduardo Escobar?
Moncada looks like 2019 Moncada all of a sudden.
Except
he didn't
not as much power, right, Chris? That's the biggest difference.
Not in terms of over the fence power right now, but in terms of how hard he's hitting the ball, it's pretty similar. He's not, it's not 93 mile per hour average exit velocity, but there's still definitely reason to think that he should have more than 3 home runs right now.
Yeah, I wish Escobar would do something other than hit home runs, because I just don't think that's a sustainable formula long term. And I thought he had gotten it all out of his system, and he was getting back to a point where we could drop him again, and then he goes and does this. So, yeah, I don't know.
Some mild hitters from the weekend. Josh Bell has 13 hits, including 2 home runs over his last 10 games. He's still sitting here and there for Ryan Zimmerman. Zimmerman's been great this year. Gleber Torres has 11 hits with 1 homer in 5 games since coming off the COVID IL. Josh Bell, Gleber Torres. Any hope here, guys, or that they're turning it around?
Yeah, especially for Torres.
Yeah.
Especially for Torres. I don't know. I'm getting kind of Jose Ramirez vibes from Torres in terms of like it's been going on so long that you can't really blame people for giving up on him, and yet it just doesn't seem right that he's this bad.
I think it's about calibrating expectations, and I think the 2019. I think he is a player who people view as a superstar, and he's probably not that. And I think the 2019 season kind of got expectations out of whack a little bit. I think we talked about this.
He was really good in 2018 too.
Right. But like he was a 270 with an 820 OPS. I think that's more realistic for him moving forward than, he's not a 40 homer guy.
Yeah.
I think you're probably hoping he's like a 270 hitter with 20 to 25 homers. Who's just really solid all the way around.
I was thinking 25 to 30, but 270 makes sense.
I can't really get fully back on board with Josh Bell until he stops striking out so much, but I do think he's better than he's shown so far. So like things can only go up from here.
All right, so some uncooked chicken wings from the weekend, some ice cold guys. Bryce Harper, he entered Sunday batting .211 with a 39% strikeout rate in the month of May. Seems like he's still dealing with this shoulder injury. Jarred Kelenic, phenom, prospect, we're all excited about, still very excited about. He's batting 135 with only a 20% strikeout rate. So that's not out of control. That's good to see. Should we bench Jarred Kelenic until he comes around? What about Bryce Harper too? Because it kind of seems like he's playing through this injury.
Yeah, since leaving that game on May 15th with the shoulder injury, he has 13 strikeouts and 26 plate appearances with just 2 hits. So, there does seem to be a pretty direct line that you can draw there. Like he wasn't playing amazingly well, but it was like a 27% strikeout rate in May before that. And he was hitting, he had a 950 OPS, but only 1 home run and all those strikeouts. He was definitely not playing as well. But the shoulder does, maybe it's a coincidence, but there's definitely that direct line right there.
That reminds me, Ty France, actually. I think he's worth bringing up because he's only rostered in about half of leagues now. He's expected back from his wrist injury as early as Monday. The Mariners have the best matchups this week of any team, best matchups for hitters. And Ty France, his batting average dropped to like the 220 range. He was in such a deep slump. He was hitting well over 300 for the first few weeks of the season. And don't have the exact numbers here, but apparently he'd been dealing with that wrist injury for a while. So kind of like you were saying with Harper, it's I could see France coming off the IL and getting really hot, especially with the matchups this week. And because of those matchups, by the way, I would continue to start Jarred Kelenic as well, bringing the whole thing full circle here.
Somehow Ty France is in the 12th percentile in sprint speed, and he was 15th percentile last year. Just adding that in there because that is stunning.
Stunningly slow. Some double dongs from the weekend. Austin Reilly did it twice. He did it on Friday and Sunday. Brandon Lau, Vlad Jr., Ryan McMahon, Miguel Cabrera did it on Friday, 15% rostered. Not overly excited about him in deeper leagues, but shout out to Miguel Cabrera. Adolis Garcia did it on Saturday. He's now up to 14 home runs. Ozzy Albies got off to a slow start. He had a double dong on Saturday. Fernando Tatis, a double dong on Sunday. And he is now batting .309 with 13 home runs, 26 RBI, and I believe it's 10 steals in 30 games, which is ridiculous.
His per 162 pace right now, obviously he's not going to play 162 games, but his pace right now is like 70 homers, 40 steals.
Well, he's almost caught up with Acuna for the major league lead in homers, and he missed that. I guess it was like the minimum he missed with the shoulder injury, but still.
Yeah, he's at 13 and 10 right now.
Yeah, just utterly ridiculous. Let's jump over to the.
By the way, because I've been pretty negative about Adolis. How do you say his name? Adolis Garcia so far. Sorry about that. I'm getting less so. I'm getting less pessimistic about him. He's tied for the major league lead in home runs now too, right? 14. Or did Acuna pass him today? 14 is how many he has. And strikeout rate is down. Keeps dropping. It's down below 28% now. The expected stats are really not that far behind the actual stats. I don't know. He runs too. I think he might be a winner here.
For sure. Yeah. He looks awesome. I mentioned a quote from a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned it on a podcast last week where he's knowingly, consciously realized that teams are going to make adjustments to him. And he was talking with the Rangers coaching staff about how he's going to adjust back to it. So I like to hear that from someone who he's not a young player, but he's young based on like major league experience. So I thought that was interesting from him. Let's take a look at the pitching side of things and talk about some struggling starting pitchers. We already mentioned Louise Castillo at the top. Dylan Bundy had another clunker on Sunday. He allowed 4 earned runs over just 2 1/3. He's now allowed 17 earned runs over his last 3 starts. The ERA is up 6.50 for Dylan Bundy. What do we do with him?
Well, you sit him.
Yeah.
That's where I mean, the last 3 starts, the ERA has gone from 4 to 6.50. I felt it in a lot of my leagues. Dylan Bundy has killed me lately. I still don't really see what's wrong. I mean, the xFIP's 394, which, is higher than you want an xFIP to be, but you would expect a much lower ERA than 6.50 like that. The whiff rate's down a little. Actually, in his most recent start, he was down 1 mile per hour and a half on his fastball. So if that had been going on this whole time, I might have real reason for concern. But just one start like that, I don't know, doesn't do much for me. But sit him for now. And, his strand rate is really low, which is probably contributing to that ERA. Probably some bad luck there. I'm losing faith in him as like a buy low, but it's certainly not time to drop him yet.
Okay. Well, you heard that. You heard that, everyone. Don't drop him because many people have been. He's 76% rostered. So currently one of the most dropped starting pitchers in CBS leagues, Dylan Bundy. Don't drop him yet. Keep him on your bench. Don't start him against the Oakland A's. How about Patrick Corbin? The curious case of Patrick Corbin. Trying to figure this guy out all year has been interesting, to say the least. He was up against the Orioles on Sunday. He allowed 11 hits, 4 runs. He did have 13 swinging strikes on 95 pitches. Velocity was back up. He was averaging right around 93 miles per hour, but he allowed 7 more hard hit balls. Would you guys still start him this week against the Milwaukee Brewers?
Probably not. But like I was saying with Casteo, I'm still encouraged at the overall direction he's headed. He's 3 starts in a row now. He's done the things Patrick Corbin did when he was good in 2018 and 2019, leading with the slider, getting a lot of whiffs with the slider, averaging about 91 on his fastball, a little higher than that actually. And, I don't like to see 11 hits against the Orioles of all teams. That tells me something's still a little off, but I think it's only a little off now. And I think if he continues down this path, he's going to be okay.
How about Zach Plesac, who allowed 5 runs against the Twins this weekend? Only 3 of those were earned. There was one inning that got away from him and had an error behind him that extended the inning. But the ERA is up to 4.14. It's been an inconsistent year for him overall as well. Chris, would you start or sit Zach Plesac versus the Blue Jays this week?
I think you could sit him. Hopefully this is like the best week for 2-star pitchers ever. So hopefully you've got enough guys that you can consider sitting him. And I will say, I have seen enough, and I'm dropping him as far as I can in my rankings, which is 1 spot behind Aaron Savale.
Those guys are just.
I knew Aaron Savale was going to come up.
I've seen enough. I'm giving up on Zach Plesac being better than the guy he's identical to.
Connected at the hip, Zach Plesac and Aaron Savale. How about Nathan Eovaldi at the Phillies? He allowed, actually, it wasn't a terrible start. 2 runs over 5 1/3, only 9 swinging strikes. The ERA is up at 4.39 for Evaldi. The underlying numbers look much better. But Scott, something that you have pointed out before is that he had a 14.5% swinging strike rate in his first 5 starts. That number has dropped to 9.2% over his last 5 starts.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I dropped him in a 12-team points league.
Okay. It's a good matchup this week, though, against the Marlins.
Yeah. Obviously, that's one of my shallower leagues.
Yeah.
But I think we're hyping him up like maybe he's doing something he's never done before. It's a breakout, yada, yada. I really don't see that. I think he's okay-ish. I think when the matchups are right, there will be times to use him, but I don't think he's somebody you need to cling to either.
This is so weird. He's got a 4.39 ERA, a 2.46 FIP, and a 3.71 xFIP because he has a 2.1% home run to fly ball rate. And Evaldi's always been someone for the course of his career has underperformed his FIP and xFIP. FIP, he's actually been about a third of a run worse. So, you should generally expect him to be worse than, what the peripherals might suggest.
Any actual concern for 2 stud starting pitchers who didn't look great over the weekend, but Shane Bieber, the ERA is fine. It's 3.32. The whip is up to 1.26, and his first pitch strike percentage continues to remain low. It's 58%, which is a career low. And then Aaron Nola, who allowed 5 runs against the Red Sox. 4 of those were earned. His ERA is up to 3.94. Underlying numbers look great for Aaron Nola as well. Any concern over Bieber or Nola?
Not really.
We got some alarmed tweets about Bieber, and a couple of them were like, was he overrated coming into the season? Should he have not been the number 3 starting pitcher? And it's like, well, who the heck should have been above him then?
Well, that and go back and look at his 2019 numbers. He was awesome. He returned second round value, I think it was, in 2019 as well. And he's been giving up a lot of hits. I had the exact number here. Basically, his first 5 starts, his hit rate was really low, and his last 5 starts, the hit rate's been really high. The whiff rate has been great throughout. So I really don't think he's lost his stuff, and it's not like the hits he's given up. It's not like he's given up a bunch of homers. So I think the thing to remember in instances like this, unless you feel like the talent level is really dissipated, like Shane Bieber's a really smart pitcher. He's kind of like Jacob deGrom in that he started out being not that big of a deal, and then he quickly became a very big deal, and then just kept getting better, kept making adjustments to make himself even better and better. So the guy knows what he's doing, and as concerned as you are, as concerned as you may be about Shane Bieber and the way things are going, right? Like nobody on earth is more concerned about it than he is, and he's going to figure it out. I really don't think there's anything to worry about.
I think he's maybe tinkered his way a little bit out of the top 3 tier or that, super exclusive group. Just because he doesn't have the same control. And, the key thing, and I mentioned this last week, I think, was his slider usage is way up to 27%. And it's a great swing and miss pitch. He's racked up a ton of strikeouts with it, 50% whiff rate. That's all awesome. But, it might be a situation where the cutter's a little easier to throw for a strike, and not having that cutter as a way to get ahead early in a count, or when you need a strike that's not a fastball. It's possible that could be contributing to it. And I'm very confident he'll tinker his way, whatever the adjustment is, like Scott said, I'm sure he'll find it.
And it's not like this has been this way since the start of the year. As I said, first 5 starts, it's like, oh, Shane Bieber, look at this guy. He's amazing. And the last 5 starts has been a little shaky. So yeah, not really worried.
Let's blast through some of these waiver wire starting pitchers who may be available. We'll start with some shallower names. And tell me who's your favorite if you needed one to start this week, and who your favorite is, I guess, for long-term value. It might be the same player, but John Gray is at the Pirates this week. Jordan Montgomery had a great start, 7 shutout with 11 strikeouts against the White Sox this weekend. He is going up against the Toronto Blue Jays this week. Adbert Alzolay, 7 innings of 2-run ball against the Cardinals. He is going up against the Reds. And Casey Mize now has 5 straight quality starts. The ERA is down to 3.42. He's 65% rostered. He's going up against the Yankees this week. John Gray, Jordan Montgomery, Alzolay, and Casey Mize.
What are we doing? We ranking them, or
who would be your favorite to start this week, and who is your favorite for long-term value?
Well, I think just going off my sleeper pitcher rankings for this week, I got to say John Gray is my favorite to start this week, but he's probably my least favorite to roster. Yeah. So Alzolay might be my favorite to roster, actually. And then Montgomery, yeah, I kind of poo-pooed Montgomery a couple weeks ago, and then 2 of his last 3 starts have just been amazing. So I don't know. I don't really know what to make of him, but he's probably second for me, and Mize is third.
Chris?
I think I agree with that.
All right. Some starting pitchers in a little bit deeper of leagues than what we just talked about. Shane McClanahan this weekend, 5 innings of 1-run ball. He's going up against the Royals this week. Brady Singer allowed 3 runs over 6 1/3 against the Tigers. He is at the Tampa Bay Rays, one of the hottest teams in baseball. And Carlos Martinez returned to the mound against the Cubs. He allowed 2 runs over 6 innings, and he is 42% rostered. He's at the Diamondbacks this week. So between McClanahan, Singer, and Carlos Martinez, your favorite there?
McClanahan.
Singer for me.
Alrighty, and then some deeper names. Deep. Martin Perez, 18% rostered. He's going up against the Marlins this week. James Caprillion had another solid start. Probably better than solid. 9 strikeouts, 2 runs, 5 2/3. He's 18% rostered. Looks like he is home to face the Mariners this week. Randy Dobnak, Chris Bubich, Mike Foltynewicz, Justin Dunn, Cody Poteet, Scott Kazmir. I mean, the year is 2021, and we're like, Scott Kazmir had a decent start against the Dodgers. 4 innings, 1 run. I didn't even know the guy was back in baseball, but Martin Perez, James Caprillion, Randy Dobnak, Chris Bubich, Mike Foltynewicz, Justin Dunn, Cody Poteet, Scott Kazmir. It's a great group.
The only one I'm really interested in, and I'm really interested in him, is James Caprillion, who, is only 2 starts, 9 days apart, I think they were, but they were both very impressive in terms of missing bats and everything else. Kind of I think he's 27 now, but he used to be a big deal. Had some Tommy John. I think he may have had something else too. He's had injuries.
Yeah,
but he's relief pitcher eligible. So that's an extra perk in points leagues.
I added him in a 15-team roto league too.
I think I put in a bid for him in every single league I'm in, since he has that added perk in points leagues. Those tend to be the shallower ones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm very interested in him. Probably more so, or at least about the same as McClanahan, actually.
Fair enough. Yeah, James Caprillion, 18% rostered, has SPARP eligibility on CBS. I'm mad at myself that I didn't get to this player earlier. I was going to make him my oh my goodness gracious player. Chris Paddock. These are just a few names that we've been monitoring all season long. And I noticed Paddock on Friday against the Mariners. 6 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, 14 swinging strikes on 91 pitches. His fastball spin rate was 2,317 RPM. That was up 125 RPM from his average fastball this season. And that was higher, much higher than his fastball back in 2019. So I was like super encouraged by this start for Chris Paddock, and he's at the Brewers this week. I would get him in my lineup.
And remember, that started before he came down with COVID and missed some time. The RPM on the fastball just shot way up by more than 100 RPM, and he's getting whiffs with it. Like it's actually playing up in addition to having the RPM up. So
this
might
be his best start since 2019.
It might be,
or at least his most impressive.
Yeah, I think he's on the road to recovery. Not health-wise, but that too.
Steven Strasburg returned against the Orioles this weekend. 5 1/3 innings, shutout innings with 4 strikeouts, 4 walks, 8 swinging strikes on 72 pitches. He averaged 92.3 miles per hour on the fastball. That was 93.9 miles per hour back in 2019. So I don't really know what to do with this Strasburg start. Maybe
I moved him to 30, but I have zero confidence in that. That was just kind of a placeholder.
Yeah.
Well, we don't really know how he's going to perform with it. It's basically been this velocity every time he's pitched since 2019. It's just been so scattered, those starts, that we don't really know how that's going to play.
Yeah, my assumption is it won't be elite, but I couldn't leave him around 50 now that he's active. But he could end up there really quickly.
Carlos Rodon, just want to give him a shout out. 6 shutout innings with 13 strikeouts against the Yankees this weekend. He had 23 swinging strikes on 95 pitches. He is averaging 22.6 fantasy points per game. That is 4th best among starting pitchers. I don't want to go back and say like, oh, he's not a sell high anymore. But whenever you see a start like this, it kind of makes you think like, should I be trying to trade this guy? I think for injury purposes, his history, you probably should. But as long as he's healthy, he's probably just going to be really good.
Yeah, it's less injuries. I think it's more innings as much as anything. Like, yes, there is injury risk, but I think he's unlikely to throw, 160 plus innings. And so, how that gets distributed, I think is going to be interesting to see. And that's the main reason I would sell high on him. He's still in like the 35 range for me just because of that.
Again, the name there, Carlos Rodon. Some bullpen updates from the weekend for the Tigers. Michael Fulmer got his 4th save on Friday. And then on Sunday, Gregory Soto was using the 7th. Michael Fulmer was using the 9th. And he gave up 2 runs and took the loss. So it seems like Fulmer's the guy-ish for now, but just didn't really perform well on Sunday. For the Dodgers, Blake Trinan got his 2nd save with Kenley Jansen unavailable on Friday. Then Kenley Jansen got his 11th save on Saturday. Daniel Bard got his 5th save for the Rockies on Saturday. He also picked up a win on Sunday. So the road to redemption for Daniel Bard has officially begun. Brad Hand got his 6th and 7th saves of the season for Cleveland, which we are monitoring very closely. On Saturday, Emmanuel Clase recorded 5 outs.
Washington.
Well,
you said Brad Hand for Cleveland, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, I do that sometimes where like I try to transition into the
okay. I got confused. Yeah.
Sounds like I'm talking about the previous,
Okay, yeah.
I'm only supposed to be a professional talker for a living, no big.
Well, no, I should be a professional listener maybe.
No, because I listen back to things and I notice I'm like, why did I say it like that? So apologies. But for Cleveland, Emmanuel Clase recorded 5 outs across the 8th and the 9th inning on Saturday. James Karinchak then recorded the next 4 outs across the 9th and the 10th. He got the win. On Sunday, Karinchak allowed a go-ahead 3-run home run in extra innings. So I don't know. Who gets the next save for Cleveland, guys?
Well, if it's tomorrow, it'll be Clase, just because I think Karinchak will need a day off. I think Karinchak is the leading guy there. I think the evidence from the past few days has shown it. I think 1 home run, basically the only damage done off him all year. Karinchak Sunday, I don't think that's going to cause Francona to flip it back.
For the Diamondbacks on Sunday, Stephon Crichton allowed a walk-off solo home run to Trevor Story. Is there anybody else to speculate on? I was looking through their roster. I guess Joaquim Soria, but he hasn't been great either.
Yeah, I have no idea because they basically stopped using Crichton as the closer for like a week now, and they haven't been using Soria in that role. They haven't been treating him like a closer either. So I have no idea where the Diamondbacks go.
Yeah, like Caleb Smith might be the best reliever in their bullpen, but I don't know they'd want to use him that way. So I don't know. It's pretty ugly.
Yep. For the Twins on Sunday, Taylor Rodgers pitched in the 8th with a 1-run lead. Hansel Robles came in for the 9th, but he allowed a run, and he wound up with the win. I know Alex Colomé took a loss this weekend, so that pushes him further down the totem pole. Not that he was close or anything, but kind of looks like Taylor Rodgers in the 8th and Hansel Robles in the 9th has been the formula for the Twins recently, and I don't foresee them going away from it, at least for the time being.
Well, Hansel Robles did blow the save to Sunday. I guess you mentioned that.
Yep.
And Tyler Duffy ended up getting the save in the 10th. I mean, Tyler Duffy's numbers are pretty bad this year, so I don't think he's going to take over. Yeah, it does look like they're leaning more toward Robles. Kind of the last 3 or 4 instances where you'd expect a closer to be used. They've used him in that role, but he's been kind of shaky too. So I don't know how much staying power it has really.
To stream or not to stream for Monday, Kwang Hyun Kim at the White Sox, Austin Gomber at the Mets, Spencer Turnbull versus Cleveland. I don't even know this gentleman's first name. Who would it be? Sam Henges, I believe it is. Sam Henges at the Tigers. You got to throw him in there just because, they're facing the Tigers. So it's,
No.
Is it supposed to be pronounced like Pat Henkin? Was that how you pronounce his name?
No clue. The only other one I see
probably doesn't know who Pat Henkin is.
no idea. Ryan Yarbrough at the Blue Jays.
Former Cy Young winner. I missed the name. Sorry. I was laughing at you. I'm sorry.
Spencer Turnbull's number 1. Ryan Yarbrough's number 3. I know some people are interested in the Austin Gomber experience, but I am not.
Gomber has pitched much better in the month of May. I kind of like it. I think Gomber's number 2 on this list.
Nah, give me Yarbrough.
All right. But we can all agree Turnbull's probably number 1 there. To stream or not to stream for Tuesday, who can I find here? Jake Arrieta. I usually write them down beforehand. I didn't have enough time. Jake Arrieta at the Pirates. Vince Velasquez at the Marlins. Tarek Skubal versus Cleveland. Garrett Richards versus the Braves. And is there anyone else? Andrew Heaney versus the Texas Rangers. Logan Gilbert at Oakland. Cole Irvin versus Seattle.
I think Tarek Skubal is probably the most interesting. And was Garrett Richards part of that group as well?
He is, but he's facing the Braves. So pretty tough matchup.
Yeah, I probably like Irvin against Seattle. You could throw a no-hitter.
Yeah.
Arrieta at Pittsburgh, maybe-ish. I don't know. He's not great.
Yeah.
Whatever. All right, we're going to wrap there. For Scott and Chris, I'm Frank. Thank you all for listening and watching Fantasy Baseball today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.